All right, hello there, and welcome to wherever you may be watching and or listening and or watching, maybe independently of each other. But this is Melbourne Real. I'm going to get it right now.
Every time.
Yeah, this is Melbourne Real, and thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to still stick with this word. I'm an inspirational speaker and a master engineer. I am Tony Jack the Bear Mance, one of your hosts, and along with my cohort, singer-songwriter from Damn the Maps and knower of many, many things, the very handsome and very talented, very smart Mr. Martin Green.
Everything's true except for the handsome. My pleasure. My pleasure. Welcome.
No, thanks, mate. Good to have you. And today it's a great pleasure to have a gentleman by the name of Dane Thomas. And Dane is a very interesting man. He's an entrepreneur. He's a life coach. He works with energy. He's an author. He's a rapper. He's a man of many, many skills. And we've only just been kind of now. Am I right so far?
That's
Dane?
pretty good. There's some facets,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. And so Dane and I have just been chatting minimally and liking each other's posts from time to time on Facebook. We've had one fun conversation, and I thought this guy would be a really interesting cat to have on because he's into a lot of things that I know I'm interested in and I know you're interested in. And I thought this is going to get very deep. So anyway, Dane, wonderful to have you on. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Without further ado, let's get underway. Dane, have you seen the movie Top 5?
No.
The movie Top 5, the one of the tiny little premises within that movie is, hey, who's your top 5 rappers? You said rapper. Who's your top 5 rappers? Without spending too much time on it.
Ooh, I can get so nerdy on it, you know.
Don't go too crazy.
All right. Generically, like if I wanted to listen right now.
Yep, top 5.
Top 5, you know, Jay-Z's up there for me based on just personality.
I've heard of him.
Presence,
Yep,
you
I've
know.
heard of him. Yep.
I like a British guy called Jest for his lyrical content.
Oh, I see.
He's a real picturesque kind of picture painter kind of guy.
Right.
I like another dude called Aesop Rock because he's completely
I'm aware of Aesop Rock,
mental and genius.
He's also he's got the biggest vocabulary out of any rapper there ever was.
It's pretty impressive. Is that based on that app or
that test, that study that showed the amount of unique words that were in any songs across your entire catalog? Oh, your first 6 albums?
Yeah.
Aesop Rock was just forever ahead. Most of the Wu-Tang were in the top 10.
Yeah,
by the way.
right.
Yep.
He's probably got the same vocabulary as the entire Wu-Tang Clan.
Absolutely.
Put together,
He was miles ahead.
Yeah. And what's that, 3?
That's 3.
Probably throw in someone like Buck 65 at the moment. I'm going back through a kind of poetic phase.
Sure.
And who else? It's very white today. I'd throw in probably Sage Francis at the moment. But that's just where I'm at right now. You know?
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Beautiful.
He knows real hip hop, man.
Oh, I love it.
You know, I mean,
proceed.
That's it. So anyway, Dane, tell us about last weekend. You're at this get together called Menergy.
Yeah.
Outside of Melbourne over the weekend. And I was really curious to find out more about it. So tell us about Menergy, what it is, what the experience was like for you, and how you got involved in the whole thing.
Yeah, so, you know, Menergy, slightly embarrassing name, you know, sounds like a can of energy drink or a male strip group or an 80s rock band with a masculine flavor or something. But what it was and is, it was basically a men's gathering. 160 men gathered for essentially men's work. So everything covering health, sexuality, emotional relating, dealing with porn. I ran a workshop called Unleash the Beast, which is about connecting to your inner animal, physically, sexually, connecting with the killer and connecting with a lot of the suppressed aspects of the masculine that we're shit scared of and we think is going to wreck everything. But actually, if we connect with, makes us more alive and more complete. And just a whole spectrum of different people doing work. But the amazing thing was seeing 160 dudes together, ranging from probably about 18 or 19 up to, I think, the late 70s. And, you know, no women around. And in what I would describe as a conscious and really honest environment. So, you know, most men, or at least this is my experience, have come up through competition with other men, or maybe at the best having only a very small amount of men you would be completely honest with. But for pretty much 4 days, it was a container of incredible honesty and vulnerability and also power. Because I think for me, you know, there's a story of beardy men sitting around talking about their emotions is a bit wet, you know. But it wasn't like that, you know. There was still a strong fierceness and warrior and powerful component, as well as the more vulnerable, open-hearted thing. So yeah, completely powerful experience for me. And I've been exposed to that world for a few years, but I haven't been anything like that ever. So
4 days
just under 4, like Friday or Thursday till Sunday night.
camping.
Yeah. Oh, a little, what do you call them? Scout type accommodation.
Oh, yeah, right.
Little lodgings. you know?
Little hut,
Little
sort of-
hut things,
little
you
hut
know?
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very. Yeah, it's interesting because we were just talking briefly on the way up here that unlike women, where there's so much emphasis, and rightly so, but on women's health with initiatives of breast cancer and cervical cancer and lots of stuff pertaining to women's emotional health, physical health. There's not a lot of outlets around, for men, and there's more and more men, I think, who are looking for places where they can where they want help. They're looking for help, but they can't find it.
A lot of the times, the only outlet is harden the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but I think also we're in a situation. I mean, I'm no anthropologist, I'm not a social scientist, but it's plain to see that we're living in a society where there are a tremendous amount of divorces, where lots of young kids and boys in particular who are not getting any kind of positive male input in their life, let alone, whatever, just none at all. Even from an uncle or family friend, but particularly from their father. And family doesn't mean necessarily biology and DNA, but nonetheless, just that presence there to be an example. And sometimes there's nothing, and so these kids are left with, trying to work it out for themselves, and so they look externally for these role models, and most of the time it's no like little girls looking up at Kim Kardashian or women like that as the embodiment of what's feminine and what's what's going to make them attractive and wanted and validated in the world. But what a kids got? What young men have got?
That's how
boys
I kind of got on this path, because I had a classic good kid turned juvenile delinquent sort of a journey, and ended up working with kids in my 20s, and it was like, I want to be like 50 Cent, and it's like, that's not a good thing to download if that's all you've got. It's not going to lead you down.
People shot him for a reason.
Yeah, there is a reason, and I like him in a certain way, but not as a model your masculine identity on as a little boy. That's not gonna give you all you need. And I mean, if you want to get deep and psychological on it, you can rewind to really the Industrial Revolution and boys not working with their fathers. Like if you rewind 4 or 5 generations back, boys grow up around men, so they not just their dad, uncles, elders, friends, and they see what their dad does, and they kind of download that. But from the last couple of generations, we're mostly a tribe of men raised by our mums. Even the ones who had a dad around, it's still, there's not a clean connection that is downloading what masculinity is. There's no initiation into manhood, so you don't wake up and go, oh, I'm a man now.
No rite of passage. It's interesting.
No rites of passage.
Or even worse, we're not even raised by our mums. We're raised by the school system and PlayStation and television.
Yeah, and the television. So it's like these kind of watered down or very distorted images of masculine and feminine. And I used to just watch movies and love them. But I ran a program called The Integrated Man last year a couple of times, which was really powerful program for men, and we journey through these different archetypes of masculinity. And one of the books in that is the book Iron John, which is a masculinity myth. It's a sort of fairy tale-esque story with all these meanings embedded in it. And what you get from reading that is how much narrative shapes how we grow and how we change. And then I'd go watch something like Transformers at the movies, and it's like the hot little jailbait chick leaning over, and she's just there to be a victim or be pawn, and then the men are like stoic warriors who just smash stuff and don't ever get hurt and don't really express anything. So I was watching that in that space going, oh shit, this is getting watched by like millions of like 13-year-old boys, and they're downloading, that's what men are, that's what women are,
and that's what robots are.
Yeah, totally. Well, the robots part is probably accurate. Megatron is a badass.
He's a bad motherfucker.
That's factual.
Yeah.
But it's true. I think a lot of men have lost their way, and I would say that myself included in my own journey in life. There's this very much distorted view on what is it to be, what is it to be a male?
Yeah.
What is it to be a man?
Yeah, big
time. I mean, I grew up with a dad who was a hard-ass, stoic kind of dude from that school of harden the fuck up. When I was 13, my dad bought me a fucking suit. He took me to a tailor to get a suit made when I was 13, because when I was 13, I'm a fucking man. You're a fucking man. Now you're going to dress like a fucking man. There was no jeans in my wardrobe from that point. Street shoes, like tailored pants.
That's quite gangster in a way. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
isn't it?
but at 13 when all your other mates are running around fucking corduroy pants, their fucking knees out of them, and faded jeans and that. You want to fit in with the other cool kids. You don't want to be like, you don't want to be that kid.
Was your dad Christopher Walken in the movie Catch Me If You Can?
No, 10 times worse.
Yeah.
10 times worse.
Not as gentle as that.
Yeah,
No.
you know. But again, I think a lot of kids are young boys, young men have lost their way. I got a 21-year-old son, and I see it as well. It's like mate, life is not Sons of Anarchy. You know? we're not living fucking Sons of Anarchy.
We're
dude.
not really pretty bikers.
Yeah, you know. So it's and you try your best, but fuck man, where do kids get that? I mean, what's the solution? What is the solution if there is such a thing? I mean,
think
how do we reach these kids? What do we do to fucking change things?
I think there's elements of solution, but it's like anything when you're looking at a massive cultural, systemic, multi-generational fucking problem. It's not like a little, we'll just do this and it'll be fixed. But I mean, the things that where my work is heading, like you named, like the kind of life coach thing, which I went through for a while and had a really personal development focus on the tools I was creating, what I was doing. Now I'm starting to angle more towards sexuality, masculinity, and that stuff. And I see like there's a few pieces, and one of them is creating culture. Like that's one of the biggest things you can do. So what this thing on the weekend, there's 160 men there, and you can see a lot of those people are leaders in their businesses, in other communities and other things. So they're taking that out there, but it's so early days, like 160, it feels massive, but it also feels tiny when you look at how many people in the world and what, where traditional masculine gathering is at in terms of maybe the footy club or the RSL or the wherever you are with your mates and your tribe. It's typically not that conscious and not that accepting and open of the spectrum of experience, and also not providing a lot of knowledge and information. So, for me, there's a lot of sexual education, and sort of I'm quite interested in tantra and conscious sexuality and that sort of work, which I feel is massive.
Just the benefit of people, how would you define conscious sexuality? What?
Conscious sexuality is really moving to an energetic and emotional understanding of sex as well as the physical. So, rather than you've watched porn and two people fuck to get a moment of kind of release and gratification, there's a whole nother level. So it's like comparing McDonald's to like gourmet food, I guess, is one of the simplest, silliest metaphors. But, for me, I started training martial arts when I was probably 17, 18 and started having different orgasmic experiences, which was not on the program. They weren't teaching you to do that. It's just that doing a lot of Qigong changes how you have sex and how you orgasm, or it did for me. So that got me curious. But basically, conscious sexuality...
How would you describe that feeling when you were climaxing, as it were?
Well, this is the thing, is like I stopped needing to ejaculate to climax. So there'd be a build-up of energy and then there'd be a pull at you, but it's like, I can choose. Whereas I used to just, there we go, that's over. It'd be like, hang on a minute, there's an energy building up here because of what we're doing, and I have a choice where I move it and what I do with it. So...
As in send it up the Kundalini spiral,
send it
up
up
to
the
head.
spine, or even just circulating around the body. And I mean, when you start learning tantric stuff, the basics are movement, sound, and breath. So we've got rigid men shunting away and getting more and more tense, and it's over
Basically
quickly.
holding their breath.
Yeah. So it's almost rehabbing all the weird habits you learnt as a teenager, jerking off in the bathroom, which is like quick, tense, nervous, it's over and done with. And then you meet women and you're like, they want it to be longer, not shorter. It's like you've been training for sprints your whole life, and it's like, okay, so this is about marathons. And you're like, I've been running 100 meters. It's like, no, 40Ks, 50Ks. Like, so it's about bringing a higher level of body awareness, but also then starting to realize what that energy is and how you can move it into love, into ecstatic states, into bliss, and just getting this. It's a lot deeper than just release, I guess, is one of the things that I would associate with the conscious approach to sexuality. And there's a lot of different avenues that's explored in, and different thoughts about that.
You've got to want to go down that path first, though, eh? I think,
you know.
So I think there's a lot of men I feel from, I've talked to enough men in my time that, they couldn't give two fucks about that, eh? If you know what I mean. They just want to get it in, get it sorted, and move on to the next one, of course.
Do you really think, though, like if it's basically, if you get across, it's like, well, so you're okay with being basically pretty shit in bed? Is that good? And it's like, oh, well, no. You know, but I guess it's the woo-woo packaging. You know, I feel like I'm someone who will go into spiritual stuff or stuff that can look cheesy, like Tony Robbins-esque personal development, and go deep into it and then pull out what I like and drop the, you know, whether it's 80s personal development cheese or, you know, new age mantra-esque. So it's like there's stuff in there that I feel if it's presented in a raw, honest way without a lot of the wrapping, a lot of men could probably relate to it. It's
Definitely,
just that it's usually not packaged in that way, you know?
Sure. Yep.
So it's all...
And even myself, even with this whole Menergy thing, again, just my own bias, but it just conjured up, okay, a lot of, you know, I wear a crystal too, but, you know, crystals, crystal swinging, dream catcher, fucking shunting, just esoteric nonsense.
Yeah.
You know?
And what I just saw was...
Which for the most part, I find very self-serving, so...
Well, I think, and I mean, you've got to ask, why do we associate those labels with like men connecting? It's like, well, they must be dressed in like purple and dancing with long hair. And it's like, well, not really. It's just that I feel like mainstream society is so neutralizing that, you know, the things that I've heard called hippie, it's like eating organic food is hippie. It's like, so like eating pesticide is normal, but eating not pesticide is somehow like weird.
So 100% of Western society before 1922 were hippies.
Exactly. Right. Especially those tough old farmers, you know.
They were crazy hippies.
Such hippies, yeah.
Such jerks.
Yeah.
Too much woo-woo there.
Absolutely.
Way too much.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just, and you know, I've gone through, crashed through a lot of those labels and boundaries and gone, is this a bit gay? Should I really want, And then to cross that and go, the thing on the other side is not what I labeled it as. It's just basically that I had issues.
Yeah. Fears,
usually fear, shame, whatever,
absolutely.
like any kind of emotional conditioning that we look at something and we just push it away because it's easier than dealing with the unknown or feeling vulnerable around something we don't get yet. I mean, I had it around money for years, so I'd go to some kind of businessy thing and leave and go, those people are fucked. You know, I can't believe they were talking about making $30,000 a month. That's so bullshit. And then I was like, I'm really triggered around rich people. So you can either stay into like, well, rich people are clearly bad and crooks, or I'm running a bunch of stories around wealth, worth, my own worth, what's possible. And that, admitting that sucks because then you have to look at that and go, fuck, my parents came from a regular Joe working background. I've got shame and guilt around money and making money. So either those people are all wrong and they're all fucked, which is comfortable, or I've got heaps of work to do.
So money's bad, therefore even when I make money, it's bad, therefore I'm just going to lose it. I'm never going to have it.
Which is analogous to men who gather together at either fags or hippies or whatever, because I don't want to deal with all of my weird stuff around the masculine and men and my own masculinity, so therefore I'll just stay shut down, and this story conveniently supports that.
It's like having a piece of cake when you're on a diet. You know, there's those that have that cake and just fucking hate themselves for it. What's the point? Have the cake and enjoy the cake. Just stop having cake every day. Just if you're going to have that cake, just stick it up your vagina. Do whatever you got to do. Just enjoy the shit out of it.
That's like, I explained that like religiously or spiritually, Tantra is like how to have your cake and fuck it too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's interesting how there's a lot of friction between the values of people who like to call themselves a spiritual or try to have spiritual lives, reconciling accumulation of wealth, money, possessions with because it's almost like the two are mutually exclusive. You know?
The biggest limiting belief humans have is that the material and the not material are separate things, and you know that was my niche for a good couple of years, was clearing baggage around wealth and worth, and a lot of my crowd were hippies, artists, and healers or spiritual people, and some of them were really keen just to get rid of it, and the other ones would turn kind of crazy when I started saying, well, your wealth is basically representative of how much you deliver into the world and how okay you are with receiving. That's the only real factors that could stop you from being wealthy. Either you don't give enough or you won't receive enough.
Or you're not charging enough,
Yeah, and I mean, why do you not charge enough? Because deep down you've got some shame around what you really are, because the marketplace will reward anything that's delivering value. So
it's all down to value, isn't it? As Peter Sage says, money is nothing more than a byproduct of value that you bring.
Yeah.
And that's it. And he's right.
We've covered some ground already, hey?
Yeah, man.
I found it quite surprising. I've been to Confest a couple of years in a row now.
Yeah.
And I found the first time I went there amusing, just listening and speaking with people, listening to people's conversations and talking with them. How many people there were limited with funds? How many, you could see, middle-aged married couples going, yeah, look, I don't think we're going to be able to scrounge up the $200 to get here next year. I'm not too sure we're going to make it. And I thought to myself, I was expecting to get there and be surrounded by people who understood things that I think I understand pertaining to wealth creation.
Didn't they watch The Secret or what?
Haven't they read Conversations with God yet or something? Or, haven't they... Don't they know about creating reality and all that without judging, without patronizing them or whatever? It was fascinating to hear somebody say, "I don't think we can find $200 in 12 months." That's crazy to me.
It's fucking crazy.
It's fucking crazy. Yeah. And sad, And so I tried to put on a to do a workshop there. Unfortunately, I picked the wrong day, and those goddamn not a single hippie showed up. Not one of those motherfuckers. I ended up talking to the dude, just a couple of dudes there. So I'll do it again next year, but at the start. But just a reaffirmation, I guess, of some things that have worked for me, pertaining to creating one's reality, or at least getting up in the morning and saying, I am worthy. I do like myself. I am, There was a lot of people that are just as terrified as somebody who wouldn't go there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I mean, I feel like what you find is people play in the areas that their programming lets them play in comfortably. So business dude picked up some beliefs that's normal, but if you take him to like a tantric gathering or something spiritual, he'll be freaking out. And likewise, if you take Reiki healer lady to like a marketing event, it's like, oh my god, these people are evil. And it's like
nightmares. Yeah,
it's just what we're open to and what we're not. And I feel like for me, you've named what spiritual is a few times, and we talked about that in the car. And really, this whole tantric view of life, to me, what I've taken from it, which some people would argue with and some people would be like, you're right onto it, it's really about opening through everything. So dealing with, rather than the monk who hides in the cave, because it's like, well, I can get into ecstatic states there. It's like, can you do that while you're doing your taxes? Can you do that while your woman is shouting at you? Can you do that while you're navigating the denseness of the physical world? Because that's where we live. So you might as well evolve a practice that opens through that. And like the chocolate cake metaphor, you can either eat it and beat yourself up, or you can eat it and open through every bite and taste every fucking morsel. Yeah. So it's like that approach to life for me, which is still challenging because I have heaps of bits where I'm blocked. I'm like, oh really? I'm going to open to that. But that's the game, right?
My girlfriend's a yoga teacher, and when she was doing her degree, her teacher used to very often say that don't forget this training, you can train up in the hills like a monk, but you must bring that training down into the marketplace. Come down into the marketplace where there are thousands of people around and use it to your advantage, etc. Yeah.
Open through the payment plan.
Yes.
Hey, let me ask you a question. How do you think political correctness and feminism have affected the men's movement? And just
really interesting. Like there's one model, a way of thinking that's benefited me in trying to reconcile seemingly different value systems, and that's spiral dynamics. So if anyone who's interested in that, the guy called Don Beck wrote a book which is about the levels of development human beings go through, and one way to name them is you can just number them, right? But we go through these stages from survival to the tribe to the individual to the large-scale organization to basically the capitalist, and then to one which is an equality-based way of thinking, right? So feminism, environmentalism, spiritual community all sits in that kind of level 6 meme in this way of thinking, and the values of that are inclusion, equality, and also restoring balance of power. And I think that movement is clearly an essential movement in the equalizing of power imbalance on the planet. It has to happen, but there's also something that happens after that, So I'm a big fan of David Data's work, and really
he wrote that book. Is it the
Superior Way to Superior Man? One of his best books, and really powerful. And he talked about 3 stages. The second stage is this equalizing. You're equal, I'm equal. We each do what we want. But the third stage is beyond that. And I feel like feminism has to happen. Like, you can't not equalize power imbalances on the planet. But then from beyond there, there's an opening to the next level of what we are. And I think there's like these stacked narratives that contradict each other, and you've got to find which levels you're at and which parts you need to work on. So for me, that dialogue is incredibly important. And on top of that, there's some other shit we need to be able to talk about. And so from a man's point of view, or in a person who's interested in their masculine path or their life purpose and so on, there's something beyond equal. You know, it's like, yes, we're equal as individual beings, and there's ways we can serve each other that, if you're looking from a pre-feminism point of view, almost seems sexist. Like, but there are energies that the masculine can bring and that the feminine can bring that the other one cannot bring. So this equalizing agenda is really important. But then after we get to that, which, you know, obviously, hopefully we'll get the whole planet to that, there's a place where we start recognizing what masculine energy is and can do, and what feminine energy is and can do, and how those serve each other. And I think if the feminist model is what's running your worldview, it can be hard to get like, masculine energy is penetrative consciousness. It's like, that's sexist. It's like, it's not sexist. That's what that energy does. And men and women both have access to it. So there's a new and richer world on the other side of equality that, depending on who you're talking to, that could be a bit too far. It's like, what the fuck? We haven't even... Men are still beating women, and it's fucking true, you know? So that has to be balanced. And
there's a lot of fucking domestic violence against men too by women as well. And,
yeah.
And that's something that's not very well spoken about, but fuck it, the numbers are there too. So.
Yeah, and I guess to fully answer what you're saying, the question is, how do you address the next needs by not negating the truth in that first set? So it's like the whole Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. It's like, well, you're kind of writing All Lives Matter because you are a little bit subtly racist and you don't want to acknowledge, and it's the privilege thing, you know? People used to call me on privilege and I'd be like, what the fuck? And then eventually I started going, I do have a million blind spots because of where I've grew up, my gender, my race, everything. And I've still got fucking problems on top of that I have to solve. So it's like, there's layers, I guess, is the answer, my answer to that. And they get complicated, and you've got to work on what's the next part for you to open you while respecting the other levels as well.
Yeah. I know. I think in principle, political correctness is fine in terms of respect and just being decent and all that. But I think sometimes it's gone a little bit too far, and we just become fucking scared as men.
Yeah.
We've become way too busy because we being equal now have to... Well, it seems like we feel like we've got to do everybody's roles.
Yeah.
Why can't we just have gender role? Why not celebrate the fucking difference? I mean,
exceptions wherever you want within reason. But if you...
this is the melting pot of complexity, is who gets to determine what's the within reason. I mean, it was interesting to be at a men's gathering where it's clearly primarily heterosexual men, but there was some acknowledgement of homosexuality and some acknowledgement of gender fluidity and that stuff, but that wasn't the main conversation. But that it has to be acknowledged, otherwise you're excluding a type of man.
Well, I was referring to the family, you know, that family model of the woman having the baby and raising the kid and the dad going off to work, that sort of thing. That seems to have... I'm not saying it works. I'm not saying it's the right way to do it, but with more equality, the woman is now going out and doing these high-powered roles and all that, and she's welcome to do so. She's obviously completely entitled to do so due to that equality. But it's changing the nature of the way the family operates.
And I think that the solution or the next level to that is getting this understanding of masculine and feminine essence, rather than men do this, women do this. It's like, well, if you're a ball-breaking stockbroker and who's all about like acquisitions and mergers and kicking ass and whatever, you're in your masculine all day. And if that's working, then that's fine. And if you're stay-at-home Mr. Mum and you're looking after the kids, you're probably going to be in your feminine a lot, or your masculine softer side, and that's fine. But if those two people come together and expect to have like sexual polarity or attraction, it's going to be confusing, because energetically she's got a bigger dick than he has right now, you know? And it's like, it's totally okay if the people understand what dynamics they're playing in and what dynamics they want to play in. So I feel like the bottom end of it is men do this, women do that, and then we equalize. And then the next level is, well, understanding when I'm in my masculine and when I'm in my feminine, and what does that do and what does it look like, and how do I get there? If I have been looking after kids all day, which is perfectly fine, how do I get do I have to go to jiu-jitsu or kick the bags or meditate? What's my way to reactivate my killer or my focus? And likewise, if I'm a woman working in corporate who's like doing deals and cutting things, and in the mental, how do I soften? How do I soften my body? How do I get into my flow? And it's really fucking complicated.
It is.
That's what I've been into this for a while. I'm like, oh, okay, there's nuances.
It just never ends.
Yeah.
Never ends.
It's deep.
Yeah.
And we're growing from it, but there's a lot of confusion for people, I think, around that stuff. And
thus every example is different. Every family example is different. Every relationship is different. The guy comes home, hey, the tap needs fixing. All right, wife, fix it, feminist. Go for your life. Go fix the tap then.
Yeah.
I've had training when I was a kid to do it.
But is that a turn on for both parties for him to be like, fix it, feminist? In a lot of cases, it's going to be like, this feels shit.
It feels shit, right?
But in some cases, it'll be perfect.
Yeah.
So you can only know when you're the individuals and feeling that, If she kills the spiders and chases the burglars, that's going to feel weird for a lot of couples.
Although having said that, what gets women pretty fucking moist is a man in the kitchen, washing dishes and
in uniform,
or out of uniform.
No uniform.
Just an apron with nothing, just a tackle, just fucking swinging the breeze.
Is that what gets them wet? Thank you, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Because of the splashing, washing up water, it's because
where are we at? 32:28. That's how to get women wet. 32:28.
One of the big issues.
Gold, right there. There's the goal.
Yeah.
So tell me, who are the men you look up to?
Ooh, awesome question. Was funny. I go through a lot of stages
Shaquille O'Neal because he's really tall.
No choice. There's a lot of like distant mentors that come to mind. There's human individual men that I know, and there's an increasing amount of those. But there's people that I've sort of studied and been impacted by their teachings or their ideas a lot. So David Data comes up straight away because we're having this kind of conversation.
Yeah.
I think his work is the cutting edge that anyone knows about. There might be other little masters hidden away that no one's heard of, but he's the leading human in sexual polarity and a contemporary understanding of kind of tantra that normal people can get their heads around, So he's one of them for sure. I'm vibing a lot of Elliot Hulse stuff off YouTube lately.
Elliot's good. I like his. I like how he rolls. Yeah.
It was funny though, being at a men's gathering with 160 dudes and shirts. I'm like, there's not one fucking dude here that looks like Elliot Hulse. It's taken some pressure off me. It's like, men just look like all kinds of things. So I think I've been holding some physical ideals of like, eventually I'll look like that. And it's like, you're probably not going to, and you don't have to. But I like that package of anyone who's packaging this combination of, Hulse talks about tenderness and aggression, right? It's one way to put it. So anyone who can hold the masculine and the feminine, but still have that purpose and presence there, that's who I'm inspired by.
Yeah, but it's also the way he trains too, because it's also what's the intent behind your training. If you're there primarily like a lot of bodybuilders are, they're there. It's about aesthetic
to get big,
and then what?
Yeah,
where's the aspect? Where's the holistic aspect of why you're doing it? Where's
just be nicer, and then people will help you lift things.
Well, that's that. There you go. That's the ultimate
heart philosophy. Yeah.
I like. But keep going.
For me, he helped melt the like strong dudes are moron jocks. I'm like, this dude's like a modern day kind of YouTube Socrates, and he's clearly a fucking beast. So I was like, okay, that's there. I think John DeMartini's work is like the peak of personal development. Like he is now what Tony Robbins was in the 80s. It's like his ideas have helped me collapse a lot of bullshit and understand life on a quantum level or on a really integrated and holistic level. So those kind of dudes are pretty inspirational. And then I had this rap thing for years, so it's been hard to undo some of those pedestals. Because I'm like, I grew up on Ice-T. That was my kind of first getting into rap, and I literally was a skinny little 12-year-old who wanted to be a gangster. And that got me real far, did me some great service,
It's funny you mentioned the whole pedestal thing. It's an interesting exercise, because recently I was invited to do a similar thing where I'd be looking at 5 people who I really looked 10 people that I really looked up to, and then choose 5 qualities about these people that I really admired. By the time I got to the 8th person, I was scratching my head trying to find different, because the same words kept coming up over and over and over and over.
Yeah,
it's like, fuck. this is me.
Yeah.
This is fucking me
it's
right
your
here.
mirror, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
You want the qualities that you perceive you want more of.
And then when that penny dropped, well, at least for me, when that penny dropped, that was a very fucking profound moment. Of like, whoa. You know, and it's interesting. And I think people did that. They'd probably find a very similar experience.
Yeah. I created a process, a clear, energetic, and emotional clearing process, and it's called quantum clearing. So basically, you choose a person that mirrors something to you. And initially, you'd start with your mother, your father, your ex-lover, people that have been around you. But once you've done those, you start going further afield and choosing like world leaders, or I've done like Jesus, Genghis Khan, strong figures that trigger you positive and negative, and basically you collapse the emotional charge or the projection on that person, and you start to own those traits. So Genghis Khan might be like ruthless leader, and if you're feeling like you're a shit manager and you're like, well, I need a bit more Genghis, you run a collapse on that trait and you'll feel it starts to kick in. And you start realizing there's no trait that someone else has that you don't have. Even if you think they're a murderer or they're a saint or whatever, you have it just might not be fully expressed. B, you start realizing there's no real negatives and positives. Like opening to your own selfishness will still make you a better person because it will fulfill something and allow you to give on the other side. So there's no, it's all bullshit. The people we pedestal or put down are our own mirrors fucking with us. And so I basically built a process to help us balance that out and let go of all the shit we're running.
Yeah.
Did that make it into the book?
Yeah, the first book I wrote, Conscious Hustle, talks about it a little bit. It's more business oriented.
Yep.
And the one I'm about to release by Christmas is called Clear Your Shit. So that will be all about that stuff. It's basically how consciousness and conditioning programs us and how to unpack it and change it.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So where do you find your work, Dane? How do you predominantly find your clients, and typically how do you set up your workshops and stuff like that?
Facebook has been massive for me.
Yeah.
So, I came from music and learned to do business and got into sales and marketing because I wanted to be more successful as a musician initially, and started, Rich Dad Poor Dad said, go get a sales job. So I got a sales job, but really because I wanted to build a record label or something. But that kind of led me into business, and that led me into personal development and coaching and all that. But I think I got the kind of the cult of personality as an idea. I was like, if you are a star, if you position yourself, it's easy to get business. If you're just some guy walking around who's nobody, it's hard to get business. So basically, I share a lot of my personal life, as you would probably know.
Yep.
And that's
I admire that, and I like that, and I think that's why it's great to have you here. I think that it's occasionally I've been called the king of the overshare, but I think it's important that people. I think people want honesty.
Yeah.
And they want sincerity, and sometimes, because I think for the most part, a lot of the shit that maybe you share, I can relate to, and stuff I could talk about to people. Again, if I do talk to kids, oh wow, you as well? Fuck, I thought I felt alone in this.
Totally.
I thought it was the only guy from A Broken Home. Oh my god.
Yeah, totally.
Or,
yeah.
So
and that comes back to that whole that even that two men can't really talk to each other about that sort of stuff. Unless they're in a specific, there has to be an active campfire. Has to be there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You can't just talk on the phone about it.
The talking stick can help, but once you've done that, then it means it's okay to do it
the
rest of the time.
Yeah.
But I think that takes balls, man, to allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to share your fears, your thoughts, and this is a place where lately I'm becoming more and more comfortable being in that. And
it's mad. Like I did the coaching thing, and obviously the predominant image in coach world is these squeaky clean people in suits stood in front of expensive cars or just nice guy characters. I was like, I'm an ex-juvenile delinquent, drug dealing, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just pretend to be nice and positive for a while, and that didn't do shit.
Yeah.
But then eventually I started sharing more honestly, whether I'd be pissed off or I'd have some insight or I'd observe something, and I just started to do that, and it started to build, and there's 3,000 or 4,000 people kind of following me, and the mailing list got bigger, and I've gone through a lot of different kinds of work or what I offer, but I've found vulnerability and honesty, and it's not. I also studied the shit out of marketing as well, so it wasn't like I was just like, I'll just say stuff. Like I've been studying how you speak to an individual and how influence works and all that shit for about 10, 12 years, so that has helped. But ultimately I found, it's the biggest cliche of them all, it is like being yourself and sharing your assets and your liabilities honestly has positioned me really well. And I got to a place where business was amazing after, having a day job for years, never earning over 50K, starting to do that in a month and being like, oh shit, something's happened here. And I also think productizing and packaging things that don't exist yet is a big deal.
Absolutely.
Most coaches and personal development people just copy what's out there, and that's a very NLP modeling idea.
And not just that, but as I'm discovering, because I'm really early into my journey, I think a lot of it are in there for the wrong reason. It's more about self-validation and about appearing to be good and stuff. And it's more about themselves as opposed to just, I'm just here to serve. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be fucking real about this. And again, there's their fear of like there's a certain veneer that they need to put out there, and it's like fuck that shit.
Just the name life coach alone. You and I.
Well,
the first time you called me and you said, "Martin, I'm going to a life coach," and the first thing I went was,
"Is this Florida?"
How old's this person? You're like 26. So how 30?
She was nearly 30. Yeah, but
nearly 30.
A woman called Erica Sklivas from Empowered Living. About 5 years ago or so, I met her a bit before I left my ex-wife. And she was my last roll of the dice. And this woman worked from a esoteric base, very different to what I've done. And I thought, well, what the fuck? And I remember I spoke to Martin, and I think while he could see at the time in my life I was needing, definitely there was something that wasn't quite right. But by the same token, I think there was a little bit of, a little bit of cynicism around it too. And he had a bit of a giggle at it. And fair enough.
28-year-old life coach.
How's this woman? I'm 46. And how's this woman at 28, 29 years of age? And a valid question. But sure enough, you know what? This woman, I credit her as to put it accurately, help facilitate me through a process of getting to that point of self-love.
And it was only... I applauded it. I encouraged it. Go. But B, it was just the semantics of just that word, those two words, life coach. Well, hang on. Let's look at a basketball coach. Have you played basketball? Probably. Are you old? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Can you do it anymore? Not really. No. But I know how the game works. I'm that master that's failed and failed and failed and failed time and time again, more times than you've tried. Yeah. I've got a fair fucking idea what I'm doing here. A 28-year-old life coach, you've got to go, well, how many experiences has she had? Has she had a child yet? No, not even had a child. Holy fuck, You see where I'm going, right?
Though, I would say you can coach things you've never done.
Of course.
If you understand models of behavior and, you know how to ask questions is basically all you need to fucking do, really.
Absolutely.
But I fully also see that, and, my funniest one is business coaches that suck at business.
Yeah.
It's like you've never built a 100K or better business, but you're a business coach, or like a social media coach whose first social media efforts are promoting their social media business. And this whole industry where coaches who coach coaches, and digital marketers digitally market digital marketing digital marketers. And it's like, what the fuck is the point of this whole thing? It's nonsense.
Yeah. Although I will say, some of the best relationship advice I ever got was from a bloke who got divorced twice.
Yeah.
Some of the best financial advice.
He'd been in the trenches.
He'd been from a dude who'd been bankrupted twice.
I think that's mentoring in reverse. How to not do what I did.
Learn from my mistakes and make new ones, because you won't live long enough to make them all yourself.
Yes.
So listen, on that note, we're going to have to wrap it up.
Sure.
So we're going to get you back, man. You're a fucker. Cool. You're an awesome fucker. You really are. You're great.
Thanks, man. That's going on my bio. Awesome fucker. Full stop.
Yeah. Well, Kim Lajoie in his book wants to quote me as a good 6 or 7 shit read for his book. So
nice.
You can quote me on that. That's fine.
Nice.
That's fine. Anyway, no, it was wonderful having you, mate.
Can I plug some stuff?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yep.
Your Facebook, your Twitter, your book, everything. So whatever you got, man, fucking lay it out.
Let's do it all. So anyone interested in any of my stuff, the basic website is danethomas.com. It's Dane, D-A-N-E, Thomas, T-O-M-A-S.com.
That's what, when I make this movement, it tells me when I'm editing the video to put some shit here.
Awesome.
Down there. Yep.
There's also the clearing work that I do that will change your life and is free is www.clearyourshit.com.
Down there. Yep.
My book is called The Conscious Hustle. You can find it on Amazon. It's sort of a spiritual take on entrepreneurship.
That one's going up there.
Right up there. And you can find Dane Thomas on Facebook. I'm pretty active on Facebook, so you find me there and your life will never be the same again.
Yeah. So here we are. All right, well, mate. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks Dane.
Awesome having you, bro.
Cheers.
It was really good having you.
Yeah.
Nice one, bruv.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. Oh, hang on. Bang.
No.
All right, peace to the skins. Look after yourself.
Thank you,
See
everyone.
you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye, world.